This moment of Zen is going to be about the power of images. It's the first in a series of two about images. You probably recognize this image. It's a famous National Geographic photo, and there's just something of the power about this girl and her eyes boring into you, and it's just this very powerful connecting image. And what graphic designers have long learned is there's a power in faces, and we connect emotionally when we see faces, and actually little parts of our brain fire differently when we see faces. So we're going to do a little psychology experiment next. I'm going to put up an image on the screen, and I want you to blurt out the very first thing that comes to mind. What's the thing you see? All right, ready? 3, 2, 1. Now, you might have yelled toast, but if you look closely at the toast, do you see anything in the toast? Just like when we look up at the moon and we're predisposed to see the man in the moon, we're predisposed to see faces and things. And, there's a lot of people who have told me that they see George W. Bush, or maybe Barack Obama, or maybe Princess Leia, maybe George Washington inside this toast. And our brain likes to seek out, and it likes to create faces out of things. Here's a great little experiment that proves the power of faces and what designers call eye gaze. This is an advertisement for baby.com, and people had on like Google Glass, and it recorded exactly what they were looking at. The longer and the more intently they looked at things, the hotter the temperature reading is on the screen. So notice that the baby's face, people connected with the face, and they almost excluded looking at the ad copy, which of course the company really wants people to look at. So we're going to make one little change to this image. When we turn the baby's head to the side, we still pay attention to the baby's face, but we follow the baby's eye gaze, and now we actually read the ad copy. You can harness that power in the slides that you build. I think it's a really cool effect. One other thing that scientists are starting to experiment with is the use of emoticons. Those are the little smiley faces that we add in text messages and at the end of emails. And I think a lot of people just dismiss them as overly cutesy, and I don't need to put that in. But there is actually science now that shows that we connect that series of symbols, a colon, a dash, and a closed parenthesis, with a face, and the same part of our brain lights up that lights up when we look at real faces. So, the way it's sometimes hard to communicate sarcasm or anger or happiness through an email because it's just the text? Maybe emoticons do help bridge that gap and let people know what you were thinking as you were composing the email. So I'm actually trying to use them a little bit more, but one thing I've learned I have to do is the scientists say you have to include the dash for the nose. You can't just use the colon and the parentheses. It doesn't register the same way as a face as it does with the colon and the dash for the nose and the parentheses for the mouth. We're going to look here at a series of common mistakes with images. This is a too small image. We want to make images big and beautiful, so this is a hashtag fail. Another fail, notice the pixelation in this image. When you searched in Google Images, you found something a little too small, and then you stretched it, and it just looks really unprofessional. It's a hashtag fail. We got a crisp image this time, but could we just have dragged it out all the way to the edge? And also here, notice this text disappears across Adam West's chest. It's really hard to make out this content. So images, big and beautiful, fill the entire screen. And you know what? You can even stretch an image beyond the screen so that just the part of the image that you want. And I'll show you that trick in a future podcast. Now we've stretched the screen the entire way, but we have that iStock photo watermark over the top. That's a hashtag fail because that says, I stole this image. And so we want to avoid that. Find good, clean images when you're looking in in your Google Images for things to put in a presentation. Please be aware that when you do a Google search, there is this, when you're in Images, there is something called Search Tools. And when you click that, there opens up a whole series of filters. And I happen to choose large here. So any image I would grab of the Batman and I put it into a presentation, it wouldn't be pixelated. Be smart when you search by using search tools in Google Images. Another hashtag fail with this image happens to be that the aspect ratio wasn't preserved. Aspect ratio refers to the height to the width proportion. Notice Batman and Robin here are squished. And a reminder, when you resize images, always drag from a corner. And that preserves the height to width. Never squish images to make them fit on the screen. We want the image to be the same proportion that it's supposed to be. One other quick hashtag fail on here is be careful of the overuse of clip art. Clip art might be the right thing to use, but often it comes across as juvenile, and it might not communicate what you really want it to communicate. So use clip art sparingly, and never use clip art that has watermarks on top of it. So just a little trick if you're a Mac user. Look at this image again. I have the Afghan girl here, and I wish this image blended into my slide better, because I have that kind of line of green to black, and it kind of divides up my screen. So I want to fix that, and I'm going to use Preview to help me solve that. So I open up Preview on my Mac, and I open up the image, and then what I do is I go click the little magic wand that's up in the toolbar, and I turn on what is called Instant Alpha. Once Instant Alpha is on, I start clicking and dragging on the green, and I can eliminate the green from the background. So then what my image looks like is just the girl kind of popping out of the screen. And I think that looks cool. So Instant Alpha, give it a try with some images and see what you can do. I like, and my kids have told me that they like when I have like pictures of world leaders in my government class, to get rid of the background behind them and just kind of have their heads floating around on the screen. We've been able to do some fun things with that. And the tool I've used to accomplish that is Instant Alpha in Preview. So let's talk about the rule of thirds. If you take an image and you divide it in thirds horizontally and vertically, you end up with this little grid over the top of it. And these 4 spaces are supposed to be very, very important for our eyes. It's where our eyes are naturally drawn to, kind of in this proportionate place on the screen. And these 4 little crosses here have have an interesting name. They're called PowerPoints. That's the place where the most powerful place on the image should be placed. And this is a beautiful photograph of this baby. And kind of conventional wisdom is you put pictures, you put the image right in the middle. And maybe that works. But this image is beautiful offset, because what it does is right here at about this PowerPoint, it's right in between the baby's eyes. And the corner of the baby's mouth is right on the other PowerPoint. It's okay that this is empty, but I bet you anything, if I put some text over here, your eyes would first be drawn to the baby's face, and then you would want to check out what the baby was looking at. Okay, so when you pick images that maybe fit in with this rule of thirds, so you can take advantage of some of that design power with your work. This is a famous image from VJ Day, Victory over Japan Day in World War II. How many people were kissing in Times Square that day? But this is the image that we all recognize, we've all seen before. I have a hypothesis. I think I know why. If I lay PowerPoints over this image, look at the way that this line travels right up her leg. It hits on his elbow, the crook of his arm, and her face, and the kiss is happening very close to this PowerPoint. Just look at the way this image folds around those 3 PowerPoints. I think that's why this is the image that makes it in the textbooks instead of an image from a different angle. PowerPoints are powerful. Use them. Here's another one from World War II, the famous flag raising over Iwo Jima. Let's overlay the PowerPoints again. And once again, we have 3 PowerPoints in play. This soldier's shoulder, the upward movement of this soldier's body. Where the flag begins on the flagpole is right about at this PowerPoint. There's once again kind of this movement that stretches across these 3 PowerPoints. And as a history teacher, I'm thinking, wow, up here would be a perfect point to put just a few strategic words on this slide. Not a whole lot of text, but just a few words, and I think it would be a very powerful image that might help me communicate an idea more efficiently than I otherwise would have been able.